This is an audiobook for fanfiction named, True God of Creation in the Multiverse by yours truly, Iekami-sama _1126. This is their, Part 3, Chapter 11 to 15, of this series. Synopsis. Important things first. Reincarnation, wishes, a system, isekai, magic, harem, doing whatever IMC want, semi-op MC, revenge. This story has all of those. Omniverse travel, robing whole worlds, kingdom building, yes to all of these. MC is semi-op and is on his path to becoming op. Sharingan at the start? Nope. But MC has Tenseigen. Shameless MC? Yep. Shameless comedy? Yep, from time to time. NTR. Nope, I am not a fan of that stuff. I am writing this novel after reading fanfic on web novel in which the writer writes whatever he wants, so keep that in mind that it has also affected me. Let's continue the story. Chapter 11, Meeting Potters and Grangers. Then we went to Ollivander's to ask the old man about my wand being allowed in Hogwarts. Then we walked to Ollivander's shop, whose family, according to the peeling gilded inscription above the entrance, began doing this even before our era. As we entered the shop we saw a slightly dusty, poorly lit room. There were already some people inside the shop, a couple with a girl and a boy. Dora and I moved to a corner and waited for Mr. Ollivander's arrival. After a few seconds, Mr. Ollivander came carrying a wand box about the wand to the family and gave it to the boy, and told him to wave it, which resulted in creating a small storm inside the shop. I create an invisible shield around us to shield us from the storm. As the storm ends, Mr. Ollivander says no, not this one. But as he was going back to look for another wand for the boy, he noticed my and Dora's presence. Oh, Mr. Celsius. Evan Celsius, I interrupted him, for he definitely recognized me as the one who created my wand 4 years ago. Yes, Mr. Celsius, I clearly remember your face. He played along, and who this might be? Dora Tunks, Dora said quickly, not allowing the white-haired old wizard to guess her name and make fun of her. Coming closer to me he asked, as far as I understand, you two must be here to show me your respective wands, right? Undoubtedly. Great. The wonderful gray-haired old man threw up his hands. Then he turns towards the family and says, Mr. Potter, can you please wait for a minute? It will only take a minute. Yes, the family that is in the shop with us is none other than the famous Potter family. Harry was unhappy that his spotlight was taken away, so Mrs. Lily nodded in his place. Then Mr. Ollivander moved towards us and asked for my wand, which I gave him easily. He carefully looked at the wand and said, marvelous as ever, it is still the most perfect and powerful wand I have seen in my entire life. You have been taking good care of your wand, Mr. Celsius. I can feel that the bond between you and your wand is as perfect as ever, and I am certain that it will never allow itself to be used by a wizard or witch other than you. Please continue taking care of this. With those words, Mr. Ollivander returned my wand to me. Certainly, sir, I nodded gratefully to Ollivander. And then Dora also passed her wand to Mr. Ollivander, who praised her too. After Dora received her wand back we left the shop, leaving a jealous Harry and curious little Elizabeth behind. Third person Poff. Ollivander's shop. After Evan and Dora left. Old man, who was that boy, and what is so special about him? Asked Harry in a bossy tone. Harry. Lily Potter raises her voice a little at Harry's bossy behavior. I am sorry, Mr. Ollivander, for my son's behavior, said Lily while bowing to him and forcing Harry to do the same. Oh, it's okay, Mrs. Potter. Ollivander tells Lily, and then he turns to Harry, and closing the distance between them and reaching face to face, he said, Mr. Potter, about what you just asked. About Mr. Celsius. I first met him 4 years ago when he came to my shop with a request to learn the art of wand making from me and left empty-handed after I refused his request. But even after being rejected by me, he continued to come to my shop every day and request me to teach him. It continued like this for the next 4 months until I allowed him only to watch me as I made the wands for my shop, nothing less, nothing more, said Mr. Ollivander in a serious voice as all the Potters listened to him attentively. On the second day, Mr. Celsius said to me, thank you very much, Mr. Ollivander, for teaching me. I will not be coming tomorrow as I have learned everything I can." After that day, for months Mr. Celsius never came back. It was after 4 months that Mr. Celsius came to my shop for the first time after that day. On that day, Mr. Celsius was not empty-handed. He was carrying a wand that he created himself. Says Mr. Ollivander as he creates a dramatic atmosphere. "When Mr. Celsius showed me the wand he created, I was shocked to my soul. Mr. Celsius's creation surpassed any wand I created in my entire life. The wood that he used was unknown to me, with blood and feather that is used to make that wand. And the most important detail of the wand is that it only works in Mr. Celsius's hand and will only be a simple stick in the hands of others. I didn't know how Mr. Celsius created it, but he has created a wand that is bonded to him and in his hands can become the strongest wand, even stronger than the elder wand from the story of the death." Mr. Ollivander stopped the talk right there and went inside his store in search of a wand for Harry, leaving behind some people having 2 types of expressions. Females were curious to know more about the boy, whereas the older males were wary of the boy, while the younger one was jealous of him and a little greedy about the wand of the boy. Unknown to the younger boy, his greediness will lead him to commit the biggest mistake of his life in future. Back to Evan and Dora. After that, we entered the biggest bookstore in Diagon Alley. As we entered the store, we spotted a girl with light skin, bright brown eyes, lots of bushy brown hair, and rather large front teeth. To most people, she would look pretty cute and would most likely grow up to be a beauty. But to me, she looked like just a girl who is a little cuter than normal. She was currently trying to convince 2 adults, based on their non-magical clothes, to buy some more books. This was clearly Hermione Granger, another member of 3 of the famous trio from the Harry Potter books, and her parents. But now that I am in this world, I am not sure if she is still friends with Harry and Ron in this world. I look at Dora, who gives me a nod. Then we approach Hermione and her parents and introduce ourselves, starting with Dora. "Hello, nice to meet you. You must be a new Hogwarts student." "My name is Dora Tunks. I am also a fresh year at Hogwarts. This please." "And this is." "Hello, I am Evan Celsius. I am also a first-year student at Hogwarts this year." "Hello, I am Hermione Granger, and a first-year student." "And these are my parents, Dan and Emma Granger." "What do you want from us?" She introduced herself with a slightly bossy tone, but you could see that she was actually nervous. "Good day to you too, Mr. and Mrs. Granger. You are probably non-magical based on your clothes and Hermione's interest in so many basic books. I would like to recommend some books that are extremely useful for first-generation wizards," explained Dora at my request through telepathy. As she continued the conversation, she explained the general situation of the wizarding world to Granger and recommended some books that would help Hermione with the customs of the wizarding world, since she was basically entering and studying in another country with different customs. She explained all the things Hermione's parents would like to know, with me slipping a line or 2 from time to time. We spent a good while with the Grangers in the bookstore before we needed to complete our shopping. "So that's all you need to know at the moment. Since you like books so much, Hermione, you really would fit into Ravenclaw. They even have their own library and the older students study with the younger ones once a week. You would make many friends in that house," I explained as I tried to recruit her into my future house. But Professor McGonagall said that Gryffindor was the best house in Hogwarts. Even Professor Dumbledore attended there, and he is the current greatest wizard," replied Hermione. Hearing that, Dora laughed a little and said, "Ha ha ha, that is so typical for Professor McGonagall. She always tries to recruit promising students into her own house." Although Professor Dumbledore was in Gryffindor, he would have fit into all houses. And there are many, I would even say more famous wizards in other houses. Many of the prominent figures in the ministry and even most ministers were, for example, in Hufflepuff. While Ravenclaw had many inventors in it, for example, the Flu Powder Network was invented by a Ravenclaw, and our head of house was even an unbeaten dueling champion. And Merlin himself was a Slytherin. So every house has its redeeming qualities and prominent figures. But the greatest disadvantage in Gryffindor for you is their students. They are rather loud and enjoy more trouble. It is rather hard to find a quiet place to study or read, since most of them will rather want to do something else. But I am sure you will just find the place where you fit," finished Dora. "You two are right. I will see where I land, since I don't even know where I will be sorted yet or how." "Could you tell me?" she asked while trying to make puppy eyes toward Dora, who just laughed it off. "Haha, sorry number. This is a surprise for every new student and nobody will tell you." "Well, I have to go now." "Don't be a stranger no matter in which house you land. After all, we are friends now," Dora replied as we began to move toward the reception desk. "Yes, we are friends." "See you in Hogwarts," said Hermione with a beautiful and happy smile as she watched us move deep inside the shop. At the reception desk, I asked the clerk for 2 copies of every new book they have and a set of books for the 1st and 7th year curriculum of Hogwarts. After collecting our order and paying for that, we left, not before saying goodbye to Granger's, to which Hermione replied with a smile and said, "Let's meet at the Hogwarts Express." After that we returned home through teleportation. Then we went inside the Haven, where we changed into normal comfortable clothes and ate the food made by Maya and Astrid for us. Then, to spend some time with each other, we went on a picnic in the forest inside Haven and enjoyed ourselves amid nature. Astrid and Dora played with animals in the forest, whereas I requested Maya to clean my ears, as I enjoy Maya's lap pillow. While Maya was cleaning my ears, she said, "Dear husband, you have really got addicted to lap pillows, right?" "Yes, how can I resist myself from enjoying these heavenly thighs?" I tease her as I rub my head in her lap, which makes her blush a little. As I and Maya were teasing each other, Dora and Astrid also returned from playing with the forest animals, and on seeing me getting a lap pillow from Maya, they also demanded head pats from me, which I provided easily as they lay down next to me, one on either side of me, and hug me as I pat their head, and they purr like a cat in reaction. Astrid has also grown in the last 5 years. Now she looks like a 5-year-old girl in height, with 2 fairy wings on her back that she can now make disappear at will. Hidden quest, potential harem completed. Description: in your previous life, you dreamed of having a harem. Objective: made 2 or more girls interested in you. Girl 1, Sekobu Zujima. After you accepted her, she opened her heart to you, but your earlier fight against the zombies has ignited the lust in her. Now she thinks of you as the perfect husband material. Just confess to her already. Girl 2, Shizuka Marikawa. At first she was just grateful to Seko and you for saving her life, but your earlier words shocked her heart, making the chains on her heart fall off. Now, she has decided to give you a chance to prove yourself a man worthy of her love. Just go for it, and there's a possibility of catching Rika Minami, her friendless sister. Girl 3, Sayatakagi. Other than her mother, you are the first person in her life who has seen her as she is. She has taken an interest in you after your earlier interaction with her. Do it and get a mother-daughter combo. Reward: harem protagonist essence. Claim reward: yes/no. I was overwhelmed by the number of notifications when all the notification windows opened at the same time. But in the next second, they arranged themselves one after another in the order of their generation. The first notification is of me completing a hidden quest by performing my first magecraft, giving Origin Magic Book from Earthland, Fairy Tale as a reward. "Hey Raphael, what's this book about?" I asked Raphael. "Master, this book talks about how to access mana or ether nano through the meditation method, and how to possibly awaken magic using meditation or through strong emotions." "Okay, claim this reward and put them in my inventory. I will try meditation later tonight." I mentally swiped the top notification screen as it relieved the notification screen below. This quest has a simple objective of meeting a member of the main cast, with swordsmanship skill as my reward. "Raphael, will the integration be painful?" I asked her, as I don't want to disturb Seko. "No, Master, it will not be." "Okay, then integrate the swordsmanship with me," I said, readying myself. In the next second a lot of swordsmanship knowledge appeared in my mind, the way of handling all types of swords, their basic moves, and the perfect way of moving the muscles to execute them. I easily digest all this information using parallel processing and thought acceleration. At the end of all this is to find out many flaws in my current style of handling the sword and ways to correct them. But I will need a lot more time to comprehend all the basics that I just gained. Only then will I be able to reach the next level in swordsmanship. Confirmed. Swordsmanship skill has been successfully acquired. The next quest was from the will of this world. There were two quests. The first was to kill zombies, and the second was to create a survival camp. I have already cleared 3 objectives in the former while none in the latter one, as I need to create a survival camp for that. Raphael, claim all the claimable rewards from the zombie eradication quest. Put the antivirus in my inventory and integrate the telepathy skill with me, I asked Raphael, getting ready for the integration. Confirmed. 1,110 SP has been added. One of antivirus levels 1, 2, and 3 each have been put in your inventory. Confirmed. Telepathy skill successfully acquired. I felt a burst of energy in my abdomen, which then traveled to my brain where it took root. Then I felt my brain absorbing the said energy, adapting and evolving. A few seconds later, when the evolution ended, I left my mind relaxing as my thinking speed and perception ability increased by a lot as I gained all the information on how to utilize this skill. Following this, I asked Raphael for the appraisal result of my newly gained skill. Name, telepathy, rank D, personal skill description. Your mind is now able to generate psionic energy which can be utilized in many ways. But at your current mastery over it and its low reserve, you can only use it to increase your natural thinking speed and perception or to mentally communicate with other sentient beings, whether they are humans, animals, birds, or even fishes. Next, I asked Raphael about the antiviruses I got, and from what I came to know about it from Raphael, Level 1 can save an infected person if the antivirus is injected in under 5 minutes after being infected. 10 minutes for level 2 and 15 minutes at max with level 3. Moving on to the next quest, I became surprised by both the quest and the reward. Then, as I claimed the reward, the information regarding the new feature appeared in my mind. The feature allows my party members to make use of its leveling up feature only in exchange for giving me all the SP they gain by killing or sharing my exp with other members with them doing the same. Now, Seka will also be able to grow with me, I thought to myself as I decided to confirm our relationship tonight. I then moved on to the next hidden quest, which rewarded me with complete PhD knowledge in medicine, which took me almost 10 minutes to digest even with using 300 parallel thoughts and 300 times thought acceleration, which is my limit in both fields for now. Moving, I reached the notification of my level up and bloodline awakening. Collecting the mana cow formation manual and bloodline awakening pill, I moved on to the next quest. It is the one that gave me the most surprise. I mean, WTF is harem protagonist essence? Is my life a harem story? I asked internally as I decided to sell it to the shop if it uses mind control to turn girls into mindless puppets. But as I read the skill's appraisal result, I sighed in relief. Author, I took this skill and its description from the omnidimensional chat group fanfic on web novel. Please give all the credit of the skill description to the author of the said fanfic. Essence of the harem protagonist. Description: there is something about you that can attract anyone, even strange alien beings beyond the comprehension of mortals and gods alike. What attracts these individuals will vary from person to person, but there will always be something that will pique their interest. Their interest can easily blossom into fondness, a desire for friendship, or even genuine love if given some time to interact with you in some way, whether in person or through hearing about you. You are quite a bit tougher, enough that you could survive the rather destructive results of typical harem shenanigans. You will never suffer crippling or lethal wounds from any of those in your harem. You will passively draw towards you individuals that have significant power, importance in their world plot-wise or some other reason, grand destinies, and things such as that. Toggleable. Granted infinite stamina and vitality, you are a quite able lover, able to please a mind-boggling amount of people into bliss. Any individuals that become part of your harem will be more willing to put aside differences and grievances to work towards your happiness and their own if circumstances permit. The feelings and loyalty they have for you will remain eternally strong unless you do something terrible to change that. Fate, destiny, and coincidence will bend, twist, warp, and maneuver to keep those in your harem yours. That doesn't mean they are bound to you forever if they honestly want to move on, just that things like individuals with mind control abilities, infernal lust powers, or a dirty monster tries to claim them. These attempts at taking them will fail quite spectacularly. You can sense any who try to claim what is yours and who they are. Allow the person to be the acquired woman of their desire, giving them mutual understanding and love. This also forms a link between the woman that the harem protagonist has. Furthermore, during sex, both parties would receive a boost of power and any dual cultivation technique would increase 10x the effect. Reading the description, I decided to accept and integrate with me. As the integration ended, I felt something changing inside me, which I wasn't able to put my finger on, no matter how hard I tried. Chapter 12, Hogwarts Express and Fiancée. Sunday, 1st of September 1991. Dora, and her parents arrived at 9:45 a.m. at King's Cross railway station. Then we entered the station and walked into platform 9 3/4 after passing through the wall between platforms 9 and 10. After saying goodbye to Ted and Andromeda, Dora and I board the Hogwarts Express and settle into an empty compartment after placing our respective suitcases in the overhead luggage rack. Then I summoned Amarin from Haven and then sat on one of the seats beside Dora, who was sitting near the window. Seeing Amarin, Dora smiled as she started patting her head, and it made Amarin chirp in happiness. I smiled at seeing Dora fitting in with everyone in the family. As we still have more than 1 hour before the train departs, I start to make small chats with Dora on how Hogwarts be like. I also promise her that I will take her to a secret room of Hogwarts that I am sure even Dumbledore is unaware of. After that, we continue to talk about topics that make no sense. After that, we take one book out of our respective suitcases and start to read it as we lean towards each other and pat Amarin at the same time. Dora continued to read my notes on transfiguration as she created her own in her mind, whereas I read my notes on ancient runes and their possible application in magical artifacts. As we continue to read our respective notes, someone knocked on the door of our compartment. Knock knock. Looking in the direction of the compartment door, I saw a girl standing there with blonde hair and green eyes with an expressionless face. After opening the compartment door, the blonde-haired girl looks at me and a small smile appears on her face that was expressionless previously. "Here, Mr. Celsius and Miss Tunks, can I sit in this compartment with you? Every other compartment is full." Hearing what she said, I and Dora looked at each other, and then I said, "No, not until you call us by our names, Daphne." Hearing no from me, the small smile on Daphne's face disappears, but when she hears the rest she becomes dumbfounded for a second, and then a smile bigger than the previous one appears on her face. "Evan and Dora, I am sorry about earlier." "Is it good now?" said Daphne. Seeing that she also became a little comfortable, I also smiled and said, "Of course. Now come inside and let me help you in putting your luggage." Hearing me, Daphne enters the compartment and closes the door behind her. Then I help her in putting her luggage as I put it in the overhead luggage rack using levitation. Then she took the seat right beside me, making me sit between her and Dora. Seeing this, Dora also smiled. Sitting between them, I asked her, "Daphne, how is Astoria doing?" The last time we visited, her health had recovered a little. After hearing me ask about Astoria, Daphne became happy and started talking about Astoria with excitement. "Astoria has been doing great. It has just been only 2 months since you have started her treatment, and the symptoms of blood maledictions are slowly but surely disappearing with time. She has been feeling very energetic lately, running everywhere in the house where she couldn't previously due to her health." With that line, a tear rolled down her cheek. Then she looked at my face directly and said, "It is all thanks to you, Evan. I am really grateful to you for treating my sister." Then her face reddens a little as she looks down, and after a few seconds, after mustering some courage, she looks into my eyes and said, and that's why I have decided to accept the marriage agreement that you and my father had signed as a condition to start the Magi Tech company together." I and Dora blanked out for a second as we heard what Daphne just said. Then after a second, when I regained my composure and cast some silencing wards around the compartment with some notice me not charms without using my wand, and then I asked her, "Daphne, are you sure about it? I mean, you already knew that I am already engaged with Dora and 2 more girls, and even after knowing that you are agreeing to this marriage, you know you don't have to force yourself." Then Daphne looks at me in my eyes and says in a firm voice, "Yes, I want to marry you even after knowing that you are already engaged to 3 girls, and it also shows how much you love your fiancés that they agree to share you. And in the last 2 months, from what I have come to know about you, you really love your family, and after knowing that, I want to know more about you and become a part of your family. So can you please give me a chance to be a part of your family?" She said all this in one breath while directly looking into my eyes with fire in them, showing her determination. I also used my observation haki to find out that her feelings are real for me and towards my family. Then I hear Dora's voice from behind, who says in a serious voice, "I also think that she deserves a chance. And it's not like you don't see it coming, as she was openly showing interest in you the last time we met her, right?" "Look, Imran also agrees with me," she says as she brings her hands near my face, with Imran sitting on her palms, who is nodding and chirping in agreement to Dora's statement. "I and Astrid also think the same, dear. I also know that you are concerned about the rate at which our family is increasing, but I can assure you that it is fine," said Maya through telepathy. Then I look at Daphne, who is now gripping my hands and is looking into my eyes up close. Then I look into her beautiful green eyes for a minute, and then I break free my hands from her grip and wrap them around her and pull her close to myself, and she lets out a weird sound due to my sudden actions. Eep. Then I placed her into my lap as my hands wrapped around her body, and her face turned redder and redder with every second. "Okay, if you want to be part of my family, then you are welcome. But I want to take it slowly, as I also want to know more about you as we made progress in our relationship. And once we are in a relationship, I will not allow any bastard to flirt with you, as I am really very possessive of my girls." "Okay?" I said to Daphne with my lips near her ear, and with every word of mine she trembled a little. After that, Daphne took some time regaining her composure. And then, while stilling in my lap, she looked into my eyes and said with a confident smile on her face, "Thanks for having me in your family." Chapter 13, Daphne's Not So Pleasant Memories. Then Dora and Imran, who was quiet for a while, said to Daphne with a smirk on the former's face, "By the way, Daphne, how do you find yourself in Dan's lap?" Daphne says what and stops after that as she realizes where she is sitting right now, and then her face reddens again. Then I lift her and put her beside me. After a while, when Daphne got comfortable with me, I removed the wards around our compartment, as it was already time for the train to depart. Just as I remove the wards, we hear a commotion from the platform, and on looking at the platform through the window in our compartment, the crowd that has come to see off their kids to Hogwarts was surrounding a family with 4 members. As Daphne looks at the family at the center of the commotion, she says with pity in her voice, "Poor Eli." She didn't like to be the center of the crowd, but being Harry's sister, she is always surrounded by them. Daphne has an honest and straightforward character, but she always hides it behind her cold expressions in front of people that are not a part of her family. She was also like this during our first meeting, and a little colder when it concerns the health of her sister. After I started Astoria's treatment, Daphne has been smiling more and is expressing more emotion, but only in front of her family, me, and Dora. On hearing Daphne's comment just now, I asked her, "What do you mean?" Daphne, who was standing near the window to get a clear view of the platform, looks at me, and as she walks towards the seat beside me, she says, "I am talking about Elizabeth Potter. She is the twin sister of Harry Potter, the boy who lived." After sitting beside me, she continues, "She and I have been childhood friends since our mothers were friends from school time. So she sometimes comes to my home with her mother and brother, and I despise the latter due to his arrogance and how he doesn't care about others." Then she suddenly got angry as she clenched her fist to the point they became completely white, and only after I wrapped my hands around her waist did she stop clenching her fist. Then she took some deep breaths and then looked at me and said thank you. I remember some not so happy memories from my childhood. Still wrapping my arm around her waist, I said to her in a gentle voice, you know you can tell us if you want, as we just accept you in our family. So we have the right to know if there is something that is disturbing you. Yes, he is right, Dora said. Then Imran also flew from Dora's lap and landed on Daphne's head and started patting it with her wings as she tried to console her. Ha ha, thank you everyone, you too, Imran, Daphne said with a smile. Well, 3 years ago when Elizabeth, Harry, and I were playing in the living room with Astoria sitting on one of the sofas playing with her toys. Then Mom suddenly called me and Elizabeth to the room, so we asked Harry to take care of Astoria and left the living room. Then Daphne took a break for a second. At that time Dora and I had a bad feeling about what was coming next. Then Daphne continues, when we returned, we saw Astoria running after Harry with tears in her eyes, and then she suddenly collapsed on the floor in front of our eyes. Seeing that, I ran to check on her, and when I reached near her I heard her saying while crying, "Our return." It sobbed, my toy sob return. When I lifted her in my arms, her whole face and eyes were red. Then I looked towards Harry and saw Astoria's favorite toy in his hand. Then I looked at him, and on seeing me looking at him, he threw the toy away and said, "I don't know anything." Hearing that, I got angry, as I had told him and Elizabeth both about Astoria's weak health due to the curse, and even after knowing that he did something like that to her. And when I saw Astoria's state again, I got even angrier. My magic got out of my control, and I sent a magic blast towards him, and which resulted in him flying backward and struck the wall behind him. And then I don't pay attention to him and called Titu and ordered him to carry Astoria and me to my room and contact father and mother about Astoria's health. When mother came to know about this all, she quickly called our family doctor and came to my room. When the doctor arrived, he told them that Astoria's body has gone under extreme stress and her mind has gone through extreme mental exhaustion. It took her a month to recover from that. After that, Harry was also hospitalized due to my attack, but even after all this, that scum had the confidence to say that it was not his fault, and he also accused me of attacking him out of nowhere. My parents were really angry about Harry's behavior, so they banned him from ever again coming to our house or coming in contact with me and Astoria. In all of this, Elizabeth was the one who got the biggest punishment, as I was her only friend, and due to her brother's behavior our friendship also got affected and is still affected to this day. As Daphne ends her story, I already place her back into my lap and stroke her back with my hand as Dora pats her head with Imran. And to prevent others from disturbing us, I again cast calm wards around our compartment. After a bit of a while, Daphne got normal after I used a little white magic to calm her down. Chapter 14, Meeting Elizabeth. After calming down, Daphne sat beside me and asked Evan, "Yesterday I sent a letter to Elizabeth and asked her that I will be waiting for her in one of the compartments of the Hogwarts Express. So can she sit with us please?" In the end, she even uses puppy eyes that she learned from Dora the last time these two meet. After looking at Dora, who just nodded, she said, "Yes, she can. I don't mind, and I am personally interested in meeting her face to face, as I and Devon have only seen her once, a month ago in Ollivander's wand shop." "So do you guys talk to each other?" Daphne asked. "No, we were there to show our wands to Mr. Ollivander, and after that, we left," I said as I take out my wand from my wand holder. Daphne became utterly bewildered when I told Daphne how I made it myself and how only I can make use of it. Then Dora also showed her wand that I made for her with her crystallized blood after she turned into higher human and an ether crystal made by me as its core with the wood from the tree of life. After looking at our wands, she looked at her own and then looked at mine. Seeing that, I and Dora laughed a little. I said, "I will also make one for you, but it has to wait as you have to get stronger first. I will tell you about the method later, but you have to promise you wouldn't tell it and what we just told you to anyone." "Okay, I promise, but if someone uses legilimency on me, then," said Daphne. "Okay, in that case I will do this. Give me both of your hands," I asked Daphne. After she gives me both of her hands, I grab them with mine and then I add her as my party member, and with that, her mind and soul will be protected by Haven and no one would be able to read her memories and her soul. "It's done. Now no one would be able to look inside your head," I said. Great. But if I remember correctly, previously you told me earlier that you don't have to be in physical contact to do that. That means you did it all so that you can hold Daphne's hand, right? Dora asked me with a smirk that made Daphne blush a little. I didn't reply to Dora's question but just gave her a peck on her sweet lips. After that, we all started reading our respective books and I removed some of the wards around the compartment but kept the silencing wards active. After that, Imran was in one of my pockets to take a long nap. A while later, we heard a knock on the door of our compartment and then the door opened and a voice came. Excuse me, everyone, can I sit with you all? When we looked in the direction of the voice we saw a red-haired girl. She was wearing a lavender-colored dress and her hair was braided in a ponytail. She was about 139 centimeters tall, standing near the open door while carrying a suitcase in her hand. When Daphne looks at the girl, in the happiness she stands from her seat to greet her friend. Eli, come inside, I have been waiting for you, said Daphne as she pulled the girl inside the compartment and after putting her luggage on the overhead rack, sat with her on the seat in front of me and Daphne. Then Daphne introduced me and Dora to Elizabeth as her friend. Hello, I'm Elizabeth Potter. It's nice to meet you too, said Elizabeth. Same here, Dora and I said at the same time, and please call us by our first name in both private and public. But if you want you can use our last name in public in case you are uncomfortable with it, I said as I looked at Elizabeth who, only gods know why, was looking at my face with interest, but when I looked at her she averted her eyes. At 11 a.m., Hogwarts Express started moving, where we in the compartment were reading our books as we helped each other when the other asked about the things the latter didn't understand, like I explained things to Dora that she didn't understand in the notes written by me. Elizabeth also joined in a while later. After 2 hours into the ride, the trolley lady came knocking on the door and asked, anything off the cart, dears? I hopped off my seat and picked a chocolate bar from the trolley. I turned to the three girls. Do you want something? Daphne said with a smile. A chocolate like you, please. Daphne said, same as Dora here with an addition of 1 cauldron cake, please. Then I turned to Elizabeth who was gazing at the trolley and after thinking a little she said, 1 cauldron cake, please. I nodded and paid for 3 chocolate bars and a pair of cauldron cakes. Then the trolley lady left. After I gave everyone their order, I sit down beside Dora and start eating my chocolate bar, and after that Maya telepathically contacted me and said, dear, I sent 4 glasses of milkshake into your inventory. Please drink it. Hearing that I looked at Dora and asked her, Dora, Maya has just sent me 4 milkshakes. Do you want it right now or later? Oh, if it's made by Maya then I want mine right now, said Dora with excitement. Then I looked at Daphne and Elizabeth who were looking at me and said to them, Maya has also sent your share after she came to know that two are also in the same compartment as me and Dora. They nodded without thinking much, so I extended my right hand forward and as the necklace around my neck glowed a little, a tray appeared on my hand with 4 glasses of milkshake on it. Both Daphne and Elizabeth were looking at my hands with dumbfounded expressions, and after they heard me and Dora laughing they came back to reality. Not giving them time to get angry with me, I offered them the glasses of milkshakes from which they randomly pick 1 glass to drink from. After their first bite of chocolate ice cream on the top, all 3 of them had stars in their eyes as they started devouring the rest with gusto. Seeing the happy faces of them all, I also started eating my ice cream on the top of the milkshake, and after a while, we all finished eating. I asked them, do you guys like its taste? All of the 3 nodded in agreement, even Dora who has eaten Maya's and my cooking before. Then Daphne asked how did I make the tray and glasses appear on the top of my hand? To which I replied, as a function of my necklace that I showed them. I showed them the necklace around my neck that has a dragon attached to the main chain and is hanging from it with a red color orb under him. I told them that it was the necklace of the House of Celsius, which in reality is my soul weapon, that Maya gave me in my starters pack. It is just to provide my opponents with the wrong information about my powers. Chapter 15. Hogwarts Castle Part 1. Evanspoff. The rest of the journey also passed peacefully as we talked a lot with each other, all thanks to the notice me not wards around our compartment that I kept active during the whole train ride. Midway through the train ride, The three girls started a group chat among themselves in which I added a comment or two from time to time. Most of the time, I was talking with Maya and Astrid over telepathy as I played with Imran, who woke up after a short nap. Then, as they didn't have anything else interesting to talk about, I asked them what house they thought they would be going into. The first one to answer is Dora. Evan and I have decided to be in Ravenclaw. Me too, Daphne said. I also want to be in Ravenclaw, with you guys. Then the three of us looked at Elizabeth, who was thinking of something, but feeling our gaze on her, she quickly replied, I wanted to be in the same house with you three, but my father wants me to be in Gryffindor with my brother. When Elizabeth said this, her mood suddenly dropped down, and it took a lot from Daphne, Dora, and me to make her mood get back to normal, and it only happened when I told the three of them about the sorting hat ceremony, that the sorting hat also took our wish into account while sorting us, and it made Elizabeth cheers up a little. When we were about 40 minutes away from Hogwarts, I told them to get change, and I got out of the compartment to allow them to change first as I guard the door against other boys from the outside. After the girls finished changing their clothes, I entered the compartment and started changing, and while I was doing that I felt three gazes on my body as I changed, but I didn't pay them any mind. But when Dora, Daphne, and Elizabeth, who were peeping at me, came inside the compartment after I finished, I asked them teasingly like, what you see? Their faces got a deep red, knowing I saw them peeping at me. But I just laugh it off, saying if you want you can just ask me next time, okay? No need to peep at me like that. Someone might have got a wrong idea if they have seen you back there. The three of them started blushing, due to my teasing, which continued for a little while. During that time I looked at our uniforms, after wearing which we truly looked like first-year students. Unlike all older students, the first-year students' robes, pre-sorting, didn't have house colors and crests. Our neckties and other clothing also lacked house colors. Around 7 o'clock in the night, the announcement of the train reaching the Hogwarts station finally resounded through every single compartment. We will be reaching Hogwarts in 5 minutes. Please leave your luggage on the train. It will be taken to the school separately. Hearing the announcement, the three of us walked to the exit as the three girls continued to blush a little due to my continued teasing. We make it to the exit door fast so as not to be pushed around by the crowd of students later. Sometime later the train slowed right down and finally stopped. The three of us quickly exited the train and stood aside on a tiny, dark platform as we saw people pushing their way out of the door. While we were standing on the platform, the shivering chilly wind of the night slowly and steadily started to make the girls with me feel cold. It did not affect me due to the modification I have done to mine and Dora's uniforms after we bought them. But the two girls with me were shivering in the cold night as they tried to get as much heat as possible by rubbing their hands together. So I take out my wand from its holster and with a swift motion, wave it around the three of us and cover us in a dome of warm air with me as the center. The two girls noticed my hand movements with the wand in my hand, and when they felt the cold around them decreasing, they understood my handiwork and thanked me with smiles, their cheeks a little red, some of it because of the cold and some of it is because of my earlier teasing. In return, I only said, it's my duty as a gentleman to take care of the two beautiful young ladies like you. Just as I was teasing the three of them, a loud voice startled all of us. First years over here. Looking in the direction of the voice, we all see an 11 feet 6 inches tall man who has the blood of giants running through him, standing there in the dark while carrying a large lantern of his size, gathering the first years around him. Let's go, I said to the three girls who nodded in return, and then we walked near Hagrid, the Hogwarts keeper of keys and grounds. Come on, follow me. Any more first years? Mind your step, now. First years, follow me, ordered Hagrid in his booming voice. With that, Hagrid started to walk as the four of us and the rest of the first year followed him into a steep, narrow, dark path. Since we only had Hagrid's lantern as our light source, the students were having difficulty walking, but Dora and I were completely fine. Being high human, we are capable of seeing in both light and darkness, so we didn't face any problems. But the same can't be said for Daphne and Elizabeth, who almost tripped from the same stone. but I saved them in time. "Are you two okay?" I asked as we stopped for a second. "Thanks," both of them said, to which Daphne added, "It's really hard to walk on such a steep path with almost no light source." Followed by Elizabeth, who also showed her dissatisfaction with how things are turning out. "Yes, Daphne is right." "Is that so?" "Here, this will help you too," I said as I touched both of their backs with my hand and cast a night vision spell on them, which quickly showed its effect as they started able to see even in the dark. "Wow!" Elizabeth exclaimed in surprise while Daphne kept silent, but the smile on her lips told her real feelings. "I will teach it to you two later on. But right now we need to continue walking, otherwise we will be left behind," I said while gesturing in the direction of Hagrid, who had walked quite far. "Let's go." "Okay." With that, the four of us continued our march and finally caught up to Hagrid as he was saying, "You'll get your first sight of Hogwarts in a second," Hagrid shouted over his shoulder, "just round the bend here." Then the students let out a loud ooh as Hogwarts Castle finally came into view as the narrow path opened suddenly onto the edge of a great black lake. Perched atop a high mountain on the other side is the Hogwarts Castle with many turrets and towers, the moon just being in the correct position, illuminating its windows like sparkling stars in the night sky. "No mournful to a boat," Hagrid called, pointing to a fleet of little boats sitting in the water by the shore. Then Dora, Daphne, Elizabeth, and I took one boat for ourselves, climbing on it first, then I helped the rest climb in. In the end, I sit beside Elizabeth as Daphne sits beside Dora. "Everyone in!" shouted Hagrid, who had a boat to himself. Right then, forward, with his shout, the boats started moving in the castle's direction while creating beautiful waves on the surface of the lake water. While all the first years were amazed by the view in front of them, Dora and I were surprised by what we see using our observation haki, the multitude of life forms living in the lake, creating a little ecosystem of its own with a giant octopus or kraken to correct being its epicenter. "Beautiful," we hear Elizabeth say while looking to the right of her. Being curious, the three of us also looked in the same direction, only to meet with the colony of beautiful glowing flowers floating over the water's surface while being surrounded by equally beautiful fireflies. "Heads down," Hagrid yells, gaining the attention of everyone present. As the first boats reached the cliff, students except us bent their heads, because the four of us had already seen the hidden wide opening behind the curtain of ivy in the cliff face, through which the little boats carried us into a dark tunnel. After traveling for a while, the dark tunnel took us to a stone platform that is connected to a path leading inside the Hogwarts castle. There we all departed with the little boats and followed Hagrid into the path, lightened by wooden torches mounted high up on both walls of the passage. The end. Thank you for listening. Like, share this video and subscribe the channel for no